Are we on air?
Mm-hmm.
Are we rolling?
We are.
Morning, Facebook people. Welcome to today's show. This might be one of the most important shows in the history of modern medicine.
That might be a little much.
Think I'm overpromising?
I think a little bit.
Oh, boy. Now, we're going to have fun. Talk a little bit of, why do we talk about politics and economic development? It's because there's a correlation between income, wealth, and health. In fact, it's been said that money can't buy your health. It's not really true. People who say that just don't know where to shop. There is a connection between income and longevity and income and general health. Simply put, the rich people are healthier than the poor people. Now, there's a threshold there. If you're a millionaire and you become a trillionaire, there's only so much health you can buy. But you've got a cash flow in an arena that enables you to have quality of life, right? That's why we do what we do as Americans. And unfortunately, that, particularly in New England and the Northeast, hasn't been happening over the past 20 years. Incomes are flat. Quality of life has been suboptimal for many people. Stress levels are extraordinarily high. Now, we can do better. We need to adapt to this changing economy, and we can't rely on corporate welfare. That's down as low as I can make it.
Really?
Yeah, that's it. Noisy overhead. So we'll talk about that today, and some of you from areas outside of Rhode Island, you can share with me what's happening in your neck of the woods, particularly as it correlates to what's happening here. I feel, Shan, that government has no business trying to cultivate specific industries. They just need to create a fertile ground for business to develop.
Didn't they try to do that? And look at the whole insurance issue now.
The insurance issue?
Well, the government stayed out of it. All the insurances, except for Medicare and, private. But now look at them, they're a mess.
Oh, you're talking about the health insurance sector.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the health insurance sector is uniquely bizarre because you have a commodity in the form of health care, or let's call it what it is, sick care. It's intervening when people are sick. That is, it's kind of inelastic, or maybe that's the wrong word, but it's hard to deny somebody shows up in the emergency room, they're an American, they're having a heart attack, and what, are you checking their wallet?
And is solely responsible for its content. It does not necessarily reflect the views of Cumulus Media, its management, or its staff. News Talk 630 and 99.7 FM WPRO presents Intellectual Medicine with Dr. Petteruti. Join Dr. Petteruti as he guides people towards living the 120 lifespan while retaining youth. He'll apply logic, reason, and scientific evidence to address conditions.
That's what we do.
Of their joy and vitality.
They can't hear it.
Logic, reason, logical.
Here's Dr. Steve Petteruti.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you for getting up early and listening to Intellectual Medicine. We have a great show today. That's a little self-serving. Who am I to say it's a great show? You will tell us if it's a great show. We're going to be talking today about the polypharmaceutical dilemma many people face and the concept, the art and the science of de-prescribing. This is an idea where folks end up with a dozen, 15 different medications, and seeing 3 or 4 or 5 different doctors, and oftentimes it accelerates their deterioration. So we're going to focus on that, and I'll share with you some highlight stories and cases. We're also going to talk about some exciting new evidence in the world of hormone replacement therapy. There's new evidence and data that helps us answer the question, Shannon, the fundamental question, one of them, if you go on hormone replacement therapy, will you live longer? So that's one question. And a second question, perhaps a more important one, is will it curtail your lifespan or increase your risk of something bad happening? Those are two important questions. They're a little bit different from one another. Because if I were to say to you, Shan, you can go on hormone therapy, you're not going to live one day longer, but you're going to stay stronger and more vital, would that be appealing?
Of course.
Yeah, who wouldn't want that? And then your only question is going to be, but doctor, will that cause me harm? I tell you the story, Shan, many, many years ago, before I started getting involved in anti-aging intellectual medicine, I went to a clinician and I was seeking some form of hormone support. And he said to me with a wry smile, well, you're going to feel great. You may not live that as long, but you're going to feel great. And I thought to myself, that's not the deal I want to strike. Needless to say, I didn't proceed. And we're going to, speaking of polypharmacy, I'm going to share with you folks, only you, this listening audience, the 10 drugs that are almost never worth taking, almost, and that you should talk to your doctor and consider getting off of, or come to intellectual medicine. We'll help peel them back. But first, a little tour. Why do we talk about things economic in the state of Rhode Island? And I was just talking about this with Shannon off air. It's because cash flow is life, and there's a correlation between adequate income and your health. They say money can't buy your health. Well, they just don't know where to shop. There's a definite correlation between upper income, longer lifespan, and better health. And part of that is because they have the resources to invest in their own well-being. Now, if you're suppressed and if you're put under and you're struggling just to put food on the table, well, thinking about life extension, anti-aging becomes very subordinate. So this was a rough week for Rhode Island, Shan. Benny's, we talked about.
Oh, no.
I'm still mourning Benny's. I am still mourning it. I close my eyes at night. I hear their jingle.
I don't even want to go in. I should probably support them, but...
Go in Benny's?
Yep. Don't want to do it.
It's too emotionally difficult.
I've shut them out already.
You have? Man, you're tough.
No.
You're tough. Yeah, remind me not to go away for a weekend. I'll be in trouble. No, the Benny's, okay, so folks, just follow the bouncing ball on this one with me. See if this logic makes sense to you. And if I'm way off base, shed some light. You can chime in here. We lose 750 jobs as Benny's closes. Did nobody see this coming? Or are there not signs that the brick and mortars in Rhode Island are struggling and gasping for air? Alexion, the pharmaceutical manufacturer, came in with high hopes. Gone. 250 jobs are gone. The site that it vacated is worth looking back at historically. It was the original site with Alpha Beta that the Rhode Island Economic Development Corporation lured into the state in 1993 by giving them $29 million worth of subsidy. The company went bankrupt, and you, my dear neighbors, paid the bill as they defaulted on that loan. Sound familiar? Look, the government does not have the capacity to forecast the next wave of economic development. Nobody in Silicon Valley said, boy, we're going to lure tech here. They just built an environment that was appealing, and tech showed up. They show up like frogs at a pond. You just build the environment, Rhode Island, and economic development will happen. Corporate wealth there, the way we're currently pursuing economic development, is a loser and will continue to be a loser. It's been that in the past, vis-a-vis Kurt Schilling. Oh, we think that's it. Yeah, here's the thing, Shannon. If the state elected people, politicians, if politicians were so great at business, they'd be in business. They'd be running a business. They have no clue. There's a specialty. It's a separate thing. What they do well, by and large. And it's a hard job. And I respect our politicians, and they don't get paid a ton, and they get a lot of heat. But they're not business people, so get out of the way and just let it happen. You need to protect the brick and mortars. So to put this in perspective, Benny's plus Alexion, 1,000 jobs are gone. On a national level, if you extrapolate it based upon the national population of about 350 million people, that would be the equivalent of the United States in 1 week losing 350,000 jobs. Now, we remember when GM was declared too big to fail, and the federal government swept in to support that industry to keep it alive as it was competing against foreign entities and losing the competition. It needed help. Well, to put that in perspective again, General Motors has 209,000 employees. Comparatively, the impact on Rhode Island of Benny's and Alexion is greater. So where are we? We are asleep at the wheel. If we keep letting these brick and mortars collapse, pretty soon, the only thing left in Rhode Island are going to be state workers and Medicare recipients. We need to support our main streets and our malls. Hey, I don't know this for a fact, Shan, but I'm worried about the Providence Place Mall.
I'm very worried about it.
It doesn't look healthy.
No.
You've got ground floor stores, premier space, closed. You have anchor stores struggling. How do you compete against Amazon? Amazon is the big black hole. You know, remember Ross Perot, Shan?
I do.
Remember he was talking about that big sucking noise south of the border? Yeah, that big sucking noise is coming from Amazon, and it is sucking the life out of states like Rhode Island. You know, the retail entities have figured out a way to beat local high tax, and they moved out and they have a virtual world. So not only do brick and mortars are forced to suffer under a sales tax, but they get whacked with local taxes, they get whacked with state taxes, they tax you, don't they tax us for counter space or something?
Oh, well, everything. So you pay tax for what you buy, and then you're taxed on what you actually have in your space.
Yeah, your inventory tax,
Yeah.
that's right.
Oh, yeah.
Now, see, Amazon, folks, they don't pay those taxes. It's an unfair advantage. So we propose at Intellectual Medicine, I can do this, right, Shan?
Of course.
Are you on board with me?
I might be. Let's see. What is it first?
Well, I propose that there should be, number one, a state commission to investigate at-risk businesses in Rhode Island. Forget running around the country giving $2.1 million to try to lure all of 75 jobs here. That is a waste of time. Focus in state. What's happening in our borders? What companies are growing? How can we help them? What companies are in jeopardy, and how can we help them? And then cut the sales tax for brick and mortars in half and raise the tax on virtual stores so that we give our brick and mortars a fair shake. We're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about we're going to talk about hormones. Hormones next, Shan?
I think hormones.
Will they make you live longer? Hormone therapy, will it extend your life or shorten it? I'm Dr. Petteruti. This is Intellectual Medicine. Heavy hormone next. That's our bread and butter. So it's a cornerstone of longevity.
It is. I'm going to show you that.
No hormones, no life.
I hear you.
Professional Security. It's a family-owned and operated transportation business for over 35 years. I'm Tara Cranahan. Professional Security Services can help you with all your transportation needs. Whether it's a ride to Logan, New York airports, and Piers, Professional Security Services will take you anywhere, anytime.
I'm just laughing at these Confederate monuments. Like,
Oh my God.
people have nothing better to do than argue over statues. You know, monuments go up, monuments go down.
But the problem is, like, it's a monument. If you don't like it, if you're offended by it, don't look at it.
Well, I would also say that the cities have the prerogative. So if you're, like they were talking now about Richmond, if you're living in Richmond and you decide as a municipality you want to take down Robert E. Lee's statue, then take it down. Or put up some other statue. I don't know, whatever you like. You know, but in your backyard, you want to put up Robert E. Lee's statue, have a ball. You could do that all day long. The Civil War is very complex, though. You know, because
you can't, I don't know.
You have some of these really heroic Americans fighting on the side of the South.
Right.
And many of them were drafted, and many of them were conflicted. And don't forget, back then, states were considered in some ways superior to the federal government.
Right. And it's what it was. Doesn't mean it's
Have you been? I used to live in Richmond, and I've been down Monument Road. It's beautiful, and they have. Although I can understand the conflicted nature if you're an African American, you're looking at this. They call it Monument Row, and a huge boulevard with these gigantic statues of all the Confederate generals and heroes. If the horse faces south, they died during the war, and if it faces north, they died after. No, I think it's the opposite. If it faces north, they died during the war. If south, they died after. Huge Monument Row, all Confederate heroes. You know. But you know what it does, and I understand this point, it glorifies their history without putting it in perspective. You know, what were they fighting for, and is it worth memorializing, or not memorializing, but glorifying? You know, they're pretty pissed off at Robert E. Lee at the end of the war. They took his house and his property, and they turned it into Arlington National Cemetery. On the other hand, after the war, it was Lincoln himself who called for, you know, fairness to all and a lack of consequence. You know, he didn't want to punish the South. He wanted to just kind of integrate them. Isn't it fascinating? It's like how many hundred years later we're still fighting the Civil War?
I know.
Yeah, it's important, I guess. It's like eternal stuff. Maybe we should. What monument would you want to see erected in Rhode Island?
Are you going to say you?
Not yet.
Thousands of families just like yours. Ranked the #1.
No, I don't know. Monument in Rhode Island. Who should it be?
Call 888.
Buddy Cianci?
That's 888 plan.
How about
See, no, you know, it should. People would be like, he's corrupt and he shouldn't be up, but look at what he did for Providence.
statue of Buddy? If you're going to put up, I'm going to lead off with that. I want to know, who would you make a monument of?
Investment returns are not considered. Only advisors who apply. Awarded in 2009.
Roger Williams, no doubt.
Yeah, but he's
Green?
all over the place.
Now,
He's
How
got an
about
airport.
Green?
He's got an airport.
with Dr. Petteruti. Call in now at 438-WPRO or 1-800-321-WPRO.
Hey, we got to let that play a little bit. That's so cool. Daft Punk, baby. That defined a summer. Remember that?
No,
It
I
de-
don't. I don't remember.
That's Daft Punk. Maya, you remember Daft Punk, right? Are they cool? You know, they're a French group, and they never seen in public without their masks on.
Interesting.
When they
Really?
accepted their award, their Grammy for this song, they showed up on stage with their helmet on the whole thing. There's something about wearing a mask that liberates you. You know, you can do, with a mask on, you can do things you would never do otherwise. We should have a whole show about the psychology of wearing a mask.
Oh my God.
Hey, well, that's, you know, the Mardi Gras, that's what
I was
Fat
gonna
Tuesday
say,
is.
right? Masquerade parties,
Well,
you know?
and
get a little
absolutely,
something.
people loosen up. Fat Tuesday, of course, is the day before Ash Wednesday. You put on a mask, you can do anything you want. Anything you want. That sounds appealing, huh? And then the next day you get to go to confession and knock it all out. Just sweep it under the rug. You just have to hope you don't die between midnight and confession. Anyhow, what are we talking about? Oh, we were off air. So here's something to ponder, Rhode Islanders, and then we'll tell you about hormones and whether or not they're going to make you live longer. If we're talking about monuments, and they're having this debate in the South about whether or not Southern war heroes should be memorialized with statues. And how about in Rhode Island, if we were to make a monument, a new monument, we're going to put it up. You know, they're talking about Burnside Park and augmenting it. Who would that statue be of? In your memory, who would be nominated? And we were saying, like, what names come to mind? Buddy Cianci comes.
Buddy?
That Buddy came to mind. He's fun. I mean, no matter what you think of him, he's charismatic.
He did amazing things for Providence.
He did some cool stuff. How about James Sunland? You know, he built the airport.
But he's got an airport.
An
And it's
airport named after him.
He does.
Well, maybe we should put a statue of him at the airport.
Well, he's got his name on it.
I want the statue. All right, anyhow, hormone therapy. So this is a raging debate in well, it's not a raging debate. I would say it's a point of disagreement between orthodox medicine and intellectual medicine and those that are more of the philosophical orientation that we possess. In a word, we believe you have two choices now that never existed in the history of mankind. You can either replace your hormones as they are fading, or you will suffer the consequence. It's natural for tens of thousands of years, Shannon, for people to do what? You're born, you reproduce, and then what?
That's about it.
You die. You die, and before you die, you wither. That's the natural arc of life. Look, biologically speaking, there's no use for you after you've reproduced and your children have been reared. You get out of the way. But, you know, I don't like that approach. And for the first time, our generation has the opportunity to change the very trajectory of aging itself. And here's the split. Orthodox medicine does not feel that aging is an entity worth addressing unto itself, and we do. Why in the world should you suffer thinning bone, shrinking muscle, slowing of the brain, shrinking genitalia, weakening of the immune system, all leading to the terminal event, the end of your life? Why? Just because you're chronologically aging, does that mean you have to deteriorate? Well, the fear factor's out there, right? They put the fear of God into these poor patients. Some of my patients that are doing the intellectual medicine therapies will go to their conventional doctor and they'll say, oh my God, what are you doing? And they say, well, wait, I feel great. Well, there was a study, folks, coming out of the orthodox medicine literature, published in the Journal of the American Medical Association, an 18-year overview of a population-based study, and they found that there's no increased risk of mortality in women who are on estrogen and progesterone. And that's the old-fashioned horse urine junk that orthodox medicine still uses, but intellectual medicine does not. We, along with others, have moved into the advanced arena of bioidentical hormones. And we are replacing and restoring not just estrogen and progesterone in women, but all of the hormones, pregnenolone, DHEA, yes, testosterone, the missing ingredient for many women, certainly for men. I thought that was very encouraging. In fact, they looked more closely and they said in particular, there's no increased death from cancer or heart disease. Then we looked to other studies. A study in the Experimental Gerontology Journal showed a reversal of immune alteration that is associated with aging. In women who were placed on hormone therapy, they had an increase in their B cells and T cells. Those are the things, folks, that fight infection, that keep you healthy. They're guardians at the gate. The immune system does more than just fight infection. It also is a critical component in fighting against cancer. When your body makes a deformed cell that has the potential to continue to reproduce and form tumors, it's your immune system that puts it in its place. That's why there's an increased cancer rate in folks taking chronic immunosuppressive drugs. These drugs are commonly used for conditions like arthritis, psoriatic arthritis as well, and they do that, and you've got to be mindful of the consequence to the immune function. What about dementia? From the International Journal of Alzheimer's Disease, there's evidence that hormone therapy reduces the risk of Alzheimer's disease, Parkinson's disease, and frontal temporal dementia on women taking estrogen. Well, this makes sense, and it supports other evidence. Women who had hysterectomies had an accelerated rate of dementia. Men who had orchiectomies, that's men who had their testicles removed. Why they would do that to a man? Why? This just,
I don't get it.
Why? Well, okay, they do it for...
Take, women's ovaries.
It's just, well, and look what happens to them.
I know.
They fall apart.
Right?
These poor women get their, well, while we're in there, we might as well take out your ovaries, Mrs. Jones. After all, you're not going to need them. You've already had your children, ... You're useless to mankind. Time for you to die and wither. They yank them out. These poor women suffer horribly. Hot flashes, fat accumulation. It's a miserable consequence. Oh, but God forbid you replace those hormones. And
no.
It's kind of dangerous. We have the evidence right here in my hand. We have the evidence.
I don't believe it.
You don't believe
do another study. No.
That is precisely the attitude of Orthodox medicine. They're farting around doing studies while people are suffering. Intellectual medicine takes the evidence we have in hand and interprets it and applies it clinically right now. Shan, you want to do the study to determine if bioidentical hormone replacement combined with intravenous vitamin infusions for detoxification and antioxidant support is going to make you live longer? Let's get 1,000 people, put them in 2 groups, and watch them over the next 30 years. Yeah, guess what?
Can you imagine?
I'm 58. I'm not
annoyed
waiting.
would you be if you were in the other group?
That's right. There are 30 years later, we have determined that intellectual medicine, they were right, and people are living longer. Our apologies to all those of you who died sooner. But listen, we can't promise enhanced longevity. All we can promise is to look at the data with an intellectual perspective and contemplate the options that make the most sense. And the weight of evidence regarding the benefit of hormone replacement is growing and is so profound that it's getting harder and harder to accept the failure to support your health with these hormone therapies. I'll take it a step further. You almost owe it to your progeny. The best thing you can do, and I've heard this before, Shan, doesn't this sound familiar? Oh, I don't have time. I got to take care of my kids. I don't have time to exercise. And I don't have the money to invest in hormone therapy. Folks, it's it's a few $100. We're not talking crazy money.
Right.
We are intellectual medicine. We're not Hollywood medicine, right? Part of our mission at Intellectual Medicine is to make this advanced care available to the common man and woman. When we started in this business, you had to go to New York, California, you had to go to Florida, and you had to spend $10,000 to walk through the door.
Yeah, still like that. It amazes us. It always makes me think we should raise our prices.
You know,
You were paying what?
here's a problem. You know, I've talked with our good friend Patrick Sullivan, one of the nation's finest plastic surgeons, happens to reside right here in Rhode Island, and Bob Leonard, one of the nation's and the world's foremost hair transplant surgeons, happens to reside in Rhode Island, and intellectual medicine happens to reside here. Why? Because we like it here. It's our home. You know, but somehow being in Warwick, Rhode Island doesn't give you a lot of status. We need to go to Manhattan. That's right.
All right.
No, we're not. In fact, stay tuned. We are going to be in East Providence, and we're going to be at the convention center.
That's right.
This
Starting
week.
Wednesday, Style Week.
Yep.
Everyone out there, Wednesday through Saturday, we are sponsoring the Showcase Lounge, and we're going to have a gorgeous giant booth there, and you'll be able to get energy drips and.
Yeah, that's one of our most popular drips is the Energy Drip, which is a infusion of energy boosting vitamins. And we're having
Power Pack. I really should call it the right name.
Power Pack. It's a Power Pack. And it has it has it's super discounted, right?
It's like
crazy discounted.
half price on that.
Like half price. So come in, get a drip, say hi to me and Shannon, and you can even buy my book, The Cancer Machine. Let's not forget about that wonderful novel. But we could talk more about this after the break, but up next from the Revolution Soft Wash News Center is Doug Lizette with today's headlines. Hey, Doug, what's happening? Almost forgot.
Progress toward a nuclear
I
weapons
know.
arsenal. After a missile test
You know, you're getting a groove, and
I know.
we'll have to mention it again when we come back.
Its goal of equilibrium military force with the U.S. A Boston man has been charged with
What do you got?
shooting a taunted
We're going to talk about the polypharmacy, the 10 drugs you should come off of.
30-year-old Lance Holloway is charged with the Sunday shootings. Motives for them have not been disclosed.
Dude killed his mom in the hospital, huh? Walks in with a gun and shoots her. She was in the ICU. You got to read the journal, I'm telling you. You should down. I
I
bought
can't. I need to it doesn't let you unless you.
Yeah, you just buy it. It's cheap. In fact, I'm going to give them a plug. I really think you need to support brick and mortar stores and your local news sources. Because without them, where would we be, right?
Why would he do that? She's already in the ICU. What was he thinking?
Well, I'm guessing she wasn't the best mom on the planet. Either he's psychotic.
Well, I mean, he must be something, right?
Well, or he's just riddled with revenge for a mother that was miserable to him. I can't believe it's a calculated attempt to get an inheritance. I mean, how stupid would that be to walk in there with a gun?
Yeah, that's just dumb.
No, look, there are more subtle ways to do it. I saw $1 Million Baby. Remember that scene?
Mm-hmm.
Dude goes in, Clint Eastwood goes in and suffocates her.
That's smarter.
Yes.
You know, you put something in the IV. I don't know. You come up with different ways.
Shannon, you're on air,
A
baby.
gun is not. I'm just saying.
Yeah, I'm just saying. I don't know if I want you as my nurse.
Gun's not the way to do it, dude.
Oh,
Wherever you
boy.
are.
Traffic is sponsored by Burger King Mix and Match. 2 sandwiches for just
So polypharmacy, this is the horrible state of sequential pharmacies being overlaid every time you see a new doctor. And they stack, and they stack, and they stack. And the next thing you know, these poor people are on 15 drugs. And they have no idea what's doing what. They just know they feel rotten. And one of the things that we do brilliantly, well, we do it very well, not brilliantly, at Intellectual Medicine, it sound like we're bragging.
Brilliant sounds
Sound a little bragging. Well, we make it our focus to do this in a very intellectual and proactive way, scrutinizing the medications and weaning them off where it's appropriate and safe, and looking at the root of those problems: weakness, fatigue, and pain. So the big three, right? Weakness, fatigue, and pain, and brain fog. I'd say those are 4 of the things that we see the most of, and it leads patients to getting sequential prescriptions. Patient I saw the other day had a chronic infection, so diagnosed by the walk-in centers, and has been on antibiotics almost nonstop for the past year.
Oh my gosh.
Well, every time you go into the walk-in, what are you going to walk out with?
Wow.
Nutritional advice?
Wow.
They have a tough job at those walk-ins.
I know, they do, because you see them once and...
all the great brands and styles that you love. There's plenty of parking at the new
Ooh,
location.
that's interesting.
Assignment at 92
That mosquito habitat.
for fun, affordable
Think about that.
That's somebody's backyard?
Yeah.
That's pretty gross.
Well, it's after Harvey.
Oh,
They're talking about after the hurricane.
oh, the mosquito birth. Well, you're living in Florida. I mean, a mosquito surge is everyday life.
It's Texas, but yeah.
I mean, when I lived in Florida, they used to have those trucks go by gassing the air. You'd be outside playing. Really?
Really?
You'd be on the lawn playing, and a big truck would come by with this big funnel, just blasting smog. I don't know what was in it.
Oh my gosh. Oh, that's great.
Mosquito abatement. Yeah.
That's healthy.
You'd kind of rub your eyes, cough a little bit, and then keep playing.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Well, you know, we see these guys coming back now who'd been at Desert Storm, and even the Vietnam veterans, and they were exposed to who knows what, neurotoxins,
Oh no.
and now they're having tremor, memory issues, and tying it to some specific cause becomes almost impossible. Neurotoxins, you know, cause their harm and then move on.
With no money down, no payments, and no interest for a year.
It's tough.
Schedule a free window diagnosis. 1-800
It's one of our catchphrases, being the best version of yourself.
1-800-889-9191. That's 1-800-889-9191.
Oh, wow.
Or
That's
visit
kind of sad.
That's kind of amazing though.
Hi, this is Steve from Water Filter Company. I
Absorbent
can't taste
pad?
it, I can't see it, I
Just that
can't
they're not
smell
so
it, I
like,
don't need a
Bulky and
yeah.
like grandmotherly looking.
test says all contamination
All right, so I'm with you on that.
is acceptable of all the limits.
I mean, it's sad that you have to wear
But I
this.
also think that we've had good success with hormone therapy in women that have leaking urine. It's that levator ani muscle. It's like a hammock down at the base of your pelvis, holds everything in. And as a testosterone fades, well, that muscle weakens like all the others, and everything starts dropping, and the bladder and the urethra are harder to control. You combine that with that mid-abdominal fat that they accumulate, and now you've got a woman whose percent body fat is like 38 and has muscle weakening, and you're going to go operate on her, put a sling in? You know, maybe, but not until you've lost the weight and gained your hormones.
Water Filter Company at 294-2400.
Maybe I'll just mention that when we come back. Part of the hormone story.
Yeah, true. True.
Repatha, oh good Lord, another drug I love to hate. Lowers cholesterol, so daily injection.
Oh, that's when you were talking about.
Mhm. Yep. Crazy money. And they thought in the studies, hey, it's going to obliterate heart disease. Yeah, barely a dent. But it makes the numbers better.
Right? So if you track the numbers,
My LDL is 31.
check those boxes.
Bragging about it. You ever see people brag about their cholesterol?
Yes, actually, I
Uh-huh.
have.
Like I'm immortal.
Uh-huh.
Uh,
your exact street address. Download Accurate today at iTunes, Google Play, Microsoft stores, and experience the superior accuracy that comes from the world's most trusted name in weather. Download Accurate and plan your day with confidence.
Oh, okay, we're back. I'm Dr. Petteruti, and we are back at Intellectual Medicine. And we were just talking about Style Week, and I mean, what's not to like, right, folks? Beautiful people, men and women, in sharp-looking clothes, and they're going to have a cocktail bar there, correct?
Oh, of course.
So you can
Of
drink
course.
alcohol,
Yep,
and you can get a drip. You can
right.
have a drip and a drink,
that's right.
and you can meet our entire staff.
Drip while you sip.
We're going to be drip while you sip. Can you see somebody sitting in the chair,
I think
getting
it may
IV
be me.
vitamin and sipping a
It might-
cocktail?
It might be me.
You. Well, we did want to get on to this important list of polypharmacy and deprescribing, and the 10 drugs that almost never should be used and can be a high candidate for being weaned off of. You know, this is how it works, and then we're going to set this up, and then we do have a couple of calls we want to weave in, Shan. These poor people start on this journey seeking relief of their symptoms. And what happens when you go to a doctor? You leave with a drug most of the time. There's pressure on the physician to write a prescription, a perception on the part of the doctor and the patient that that would be part of the remedy. Now you go to see 5 doctors and they each prescribe 2 drugs, and the next thing you know, you're on 13, 14 drugs, and in many cases not feeling a heck of a lot better. I saw a patient like this the other day. We'll call it patient X, a 67-year-old, chronic pain, saw who knows how many doctors, had who knows how many diagnostic studies on 16 medications. She had the pre-morbid get out of the chair oomph. You know what I'm talking about, Shan?
I do.
You know, here it is, folks. If you're getting out of a chair and you sound something like this, if that's you getting out of a chair, get your affairs in order. You're not long for the world. It's a loss of that proximal muscle power. Excessive adiposity, depression, fatigue, muscle pain, brain fog. These are the symptoms that people seek relief from, and often the drugs make them worse. So which 10 should you consider? Get your pen ready, and after we talk to Bob from Cranston, we'll start filling you in. Good morning, Bob. It's Dr. Petteruti on Intellectual Medicine. Thank you. Wow, Bob, that's a long answer, but I'll try to summarize it quickly. HGH is human growth hormone. Human growth hormone is considered by some to be kind of an elixir of youth. It's really a bit misnamed, Bob. When we go to sleep at night, growth hormone surges and is restorative to our body. It regenerates us naturally. Now, as we get older, it's true that the level of growth hormone tends to diminish. And at some point, it can diminish to such a level that it may be worth boosting. In our practice, we do not give growth hormone. There are very few legitimate anti-aging specialists that are going to advocate for that. However, there are things you can do to boost your own growth hormone, and there are therapies, prescription therapies, the growth hormone secreting factors that we do sometimes use to help people that need it. The mistake some people make is to get on growth hormone when they're young, in their 50s and 60s, because they believe it's going to make them live longer and keep younger. If you're on hormone replacement therapy, I'll say this, Bob, men over 50, by and large, should be on testosterone by the time they hit 50, and I'd say women by the time they're in their early 40s, even if they're still menstruating, should start hormone therapy, because those hormones are going to help sleep quality, and they are going to be stimulatory to the natural production of growth hormone. The other thing that can help natural production of growth hormone is a regular exercise routine and unfractured sleep. So you got to sleep well to make growth hormone. You want to have your sex hormones at the peak of their game. And then, and only then, if you, like I've got a few folks, Bob, they are in their 90s and 80s, and those are folks in some cases that can benefit with a growth hormone secreting factor that stimulates them to make their own growth hormone. Properly applied, it can increase lean body mass, it can help to regenerate bone and tissue. If you've ever had cancer, however, there's some concern that excessive growth hormone can accelerate that cancer growth. So, that's a great question. It deserves further discussion. And Bob, I promise we will circle back to that periodically on this show. In fact, Shan, remind me, we'll do a whole focus on that. But yeah, thanks for your question, Bob, and keep listening. We appreciate that. But yeah. Well, the growth hormone affects the liver and it produces IGF-1, insulin-like growth factor 1. One of the problems with growth hormone emanating from the brain, the pituitaries, is that it doesn't stay in the bloodstream very long, so you can't really test it. You can test the thing that it stimulates, which is the IGF-1, and it has an effect on every cell in the body, so it's ubiquitous in its impact. Yeah. Well, Bob, there's a world of difference between hormone therapy utilized for anti-aging and life extension and that which happens in the bodybuilding and athletic world. And having a six-pack ab does not correlate with extended life. And improperly utilized, the hormones can absolutely cause harm. But listen, keep listening. I want to get to this other top 10 list, and then we can talk more growth hormone. But How am I doing over there, Maya? We could get through maybe half of this. We'll get through half of it. So here they are, the intellectual medicine top 10 list of drugs to consider coming off of. 1, you can pretty well stop using antibiotics as a prophylaxis for dental work. New guidelines in 1997 changed the impetus on that. The problem, doctors and patients are reluctant to implement new information. They're afraid. Deprescribing is scary for docs. Another one, we talk about this a lot, proton pump inhibitors, antacid drugs. They're known to decrease calcium absorption, increase osteoporosis, increase the risk of a potentially life-threatening colonic infection called C. difficile, increase pneumonia risk, can be detrimental to kidney health. And although recent studies have thrown that into question, they may have an impact on long-term cognitive function. If you're on them because you can't be off of them, that's one thing, but often people are placed on them for non-specific symptoms like stomach pain or heartburn. And then they get dependent on them and they can't stop them.
I often find people just don't want to change what they're eating.
That's a good point too. You know, the drug gives you the cover, and this is a double whammy, right? You take a drug that does harm so you can then eat foods that are bad for you. It's like, you know, in intellectual medicine, we are big believers in the freedom to choose. And that includes the freedom to choose, if you will, unhealthy lifestyle choices. But if you know what you're doing, then you can go ahead and do it anyhow. Statin drugs, Lipitor, pravastatin, for prevention, primary prevention. Your cholesterol's high, Shannon, you need to be on a drug because it's high. That's been shown to cause harm in most cases, especially in women and especially in people over 75. It's a different story if you've had a heart attack, a stroke, or you're a diabetic. Beta blockers, another class of drugs, heavily overutilized, often used for blood pressure, or nominally used for blood pressure. When I was growing up, beta blockers were the rage. And because they have a reputation of protecting people from heart attack, they stick around. New studies have shown otherwise. Hey, when we come back, we're going to complete our list. Keep your pencil handy. And we're going to talk about how to reel off of these things in a safe manner. I'm Dr. Petteruti. This is Intellectual Medicine. We'll be right back. That's a pretty good question. Growth hormone.
Yeah.
That comes up a lot. You know, because people...
Oh, I see it, and it's like, they advertise it, you know, it's like, you can go on growth hormone too, but it doesn't work like that.
Yeah. And they sell over-the-counter
Right.
Supplements.
The other caller that I didn't put up, he called last week. This was Dr. Goodspine, the one that wanted the citation for the working out too much. Did you email him?
Oh, you know, I did not. I forgot about that. But do we have his email address?
Got it again.
Okay.
Okay, I'll mention that on the air about the articles so we could send them.
I should just post it.
What, baby?
I should just post the article.
Yeah.
Why don't I just do that? Although he might not have social
Well, we can
media.
email. He requested a direct email, so we could do that. And we could email him from the IM120, and we could do both.
Nice, yeah.
We can post some of the articles. I mean, there's so many of them
I wouldn't post them all. No.
upon request.
Oh, yeah. That's fine.
Yeah, and they can tweet. They can do anything. Nobody's going to tweet us.
No one will.
We think of Donald Trump. So we mentioned dental prophylaxis, proton pump inhibitors, statins, and beta blockers. What's the other dementia drug besides Aricept? Because I don't prescribe them.
We're selling jeans, slacks, dresses, and sweaters for just $25. Ladies can also find sweaters, dresses, jackets,
Do you think
pants,
people
and knit tops from
who are
America's favorite department store for
in a mandatory evacuation zone who don't evacuate and then need like savings should be fined?
No.
Don't? Why? We gotta pay these resources.
Well, yeah, I think it's a bad precedent. You know, there's a certain amount of freedom of choice involved. And, for instance, should people who get lost on a mountain be fined?
No, I'm saying there's a mandatory evacuation. Like, we know,
Okay.
like,
So-
you need to go.
And suppose somebody is skiing and they go off the trail.
totally different. Totally, that's not even like, that's apples.
Well,
and
they're
oranges.
breaking the rules. They went off the trail. They went into an
like
area
on
they shouldn't be
purpose?
skiing on purpose.
Oh, then they should be fined. And someone, but I'm saying, someone has to rescue them.
Yeah.
So you get these, these rescue workers who have to risk their lives now.
Suppose that person didn't evacuate, in part because they had trouble.
I think totally different. I think, yeah, maybe they're elder. I think that's totally different. I'm talking about the people that are just cavalier and like, I'm not leaving. I'm going to stay here.
I'm sympathetic with you, but now you have now you have trouble discriminating these two classes of people.
I see if you're like 90 or if you're like 30 and you're just like.
Then you've got to have some kind of like a board review to see who gets fined and who doesn't.
Well, a 30-year-old probably an idiot and posted on social media that they're hanging around.
They did?
I'm just saying.
Look, I think people that are posting on social media should be fined, just in general.
True. Some of it they should.
Policies issued by American General Life Insurance Company in Houston, Texas. Not available in all states. For details, visit AIGdirect.com.
Do you have a family? Would you like to help make sure they'll be taken care of if anything were to happen to you? If you answered yes, you probably need life insurance. Now, do you think life insurance is expensive? If you answered yes to that too, you definitely need to give AIG Direct a call. We could find you a $250,000 policy for just $14 a month, which means you
30 seconds.
of dollars a year. Call us now for a free, no-obligation quote. 1-800-700-1368. Since 1995, we've helped millions of people find out if they can save up to 70% on their term life insurance. See how affordably we can help you protect your family. Call AIG Direct now for your free quote. 1-800-700-1368. You can save up to 70%. That's 1-800-700-1368. 1-800-700-1368.
Now, back to Intellectual Medicine with Dr. Petteruti. Call in now at 438-WPRO.
Hey everybody, we are back. Just off air, we got a request for a reference citation, and we will get that to you, Doc. I apologize for not sending it out last week. And listeners, as I speak and we reference these articles, if any of you want to see or read those articles, you can. Well, how can they get in touch with us, Shannon?
They can just email me at shannon@im-120.com.
Shannon, say that again, please.
At im-120.com.
Now, after I forget all of that,
Yes.
Can I just Google IM120?
You can, and you can go on the website and just put in a request that way.
Okay. Yeah, because we do respect the intellectual basis of our listeners, and these articles are worthy of your scrutiny. And intellectual medicine implies a bit of healthy skepticism to a lot of the things that are offered in medical advice, and even to what we say. You should apply your own intellectual process to it, even though we are almost always right? We used to,
Wow.
we used to say that about my residency director. Never in doubt, usually right. All right, let's go on. Here's our list of drugs to consider. We talked about beta blockers. The problem here is coincidental consequence, and here's one of the things doctors fear. Uncle George has been on his beta blocker, his metoprolol, for the past 20 years, and there's really no good evidence that has any value. So an advanced progressive doctor takes him off the drug. 3 years later, he dies. They're going to blame him for stopping the drug. It has nothing to do. One has nothing to do with the other, but that's part of the fear. So you need to be proactive. Go to your doctor and say, Doc, I accept the possible coincidental consequence, but can you take me off some of this stuff? How about asthma drugs, Shannon? Did you know that 1/3 of the people in a study, 1/3 of the people diagnosed with asthma have been misdiagnosed? That when they are subjected to definitive studies done with spirometry and other interventions, they've been found not to have asthma. Everything that wheezes does not mean asthma. Shortness of breath, chest pressure. So if you have that diagnosis, it should have been made with objective testing at some point. Tamiflu, holy cow, right? How much do I hate this drug?
Yeah, I still can't. I can't believe it's around. I can't believe they came out with another one.
Yeah, it's a generic version of a drug that's horrible to begin with. You take this drug if you have the flu. Now, here's the caveat. You have to take it within 24 hours of catching the flu. Problem number one. Problem number two, about 1/4 of the people who take it are getting nausea and vomiting. So
Right, and supposed to lessen it by a day or two.
maybe a day. Never mind the Tamiflu. Come into intellectual medicine, we'll whack you with some high dose vitamin C. What's the name of our most effective drip for that?
The Shield.
The Shield, and that's got
We have
high
another
dose
one.
C.
We do.
And we got some zinc in there.
We do.
That's awesome. And anyhow, Tamiflu we like to hate. Antibiotics we like to hate. In general, that let's nip it in the bud. You have a bronchitic cough. You walk into an urgent care, you're going to walk out with a door prize, which is typically a Z-Pack. Here's what you do, folks, when you are wondering if you need an antibiotic or not. You look at the doctor and you say, Doctor, my philosophy is to not use antibiotic unless it is absolutely essential, but I just want your opinion about my condition. If you preface the conversation with that, the pressure on the clinician to prescribe will diminish, and he will embrace you intellectually. More likely, I should say. So, quick vignette. I was training as a young doc, and my mentor saw a kid with a sore throat and gave him penicillin. And I looked at him, and he said, yeah, I know. They taught you not to do that in medical school, didn't they, kid? I said, yes, sir. He said, well, let me tell you, if I don't prescribe penicillin, he's going to leave here, go to the next doctor down the street, tell that doctor he didn't get penicillin for his sore throat. He will then get it prescribed and give that doctor credit when he eventually gets well, which he would have done anyhow. He said it's just good business. Well, I disagree. Next drug, here too, I think I have not figured out a use for them yet. Gabapentin and Lyrica. Haven't figured out a use yet. They make you fat and tired, and they really don't, studies have shown they don't help for back pain. Every now and then, here we don't use them because neuropathic pain from your nerves, is something intellectual medicine has better approaches to than giving you drugs that make you tired and fat. Here's another class that can be tossed. Alzheimer's drugs. Folks, I hate to say this, there is no treatment, no orthodox conventional medical treatment for Alzheimer's. Aricept is a waste of money and does nothing to improve your condition, and it comes laced with side effects. I know people that have been bucking up, Shan, they're paying $450 a month for that drug.
What?
Well, they're feeling, desperate. They want to do something for mom.
But,
I know. It's horrible. Look, we're going to do a whole hotlight on brain health because it's critical to take action when your brain is crisp to prevent it from corroding. So we're going to continue that. Alzheimer's drugs. Another class of drugs we love to be scrutinizing about is antidepressants. These serotonin reuptake inhibitors. Here's the problem. You go in your doctor's office, right, and you start crying, you're going to whip out the prescription pad. Doctors cannot stand.
They don't know what to do with you.
They can't stand people crying. Cannot, you start crying in the doctor's office and the whole temperature changes. Well, maybe you're crying because you need to cry because it's a safe place. I'm not implying that all antidepressants should be avoided in every case. These medicines work and they can be very effective for people that are suffering the known and real disease of depression. However, sometimes the depression is situational and temporary. I know people, Shannon, they were placed on these drugs. Woman's, let's imagine she's in her early 40s. Her mother gets sick. She goes through stress. She's going through menopause. She gets depressed. She gets put on, an antidepressant drug, Prozac, any one of them. And then, 20 years later, they're still on it. Mm-hmm. These drugs are enormously hard to come off of. You stop them abruptly, you're going to go through withdrawal like you just stopped using heroin. It's awful. So you've got to question its ongoing use. I'd say, in general, in the absence of profound, irreversible depression, after 6 months, you should contemplate weaning off of them and work with your doctor to do it. So there you have it, folks. Our top 10 list at Intellectual Medicine of drugs that are worthy of considering to be removed, the disease, if you will, of polypharmacy. And we address this all the time. One of the great joys that I have in medicine, and Shannon as well, is taking people that are suffering under the weight of their disease and the drugs rendered to try to help them and peeling them all back over time. We have a saying in our place, be the best version of yourself. And that's true. Everybody can get stronger and healthier. Well, next up, Mike from Coventry. Mike, welcome to Intellectual Medicine. Thanks for calling. Sure. What's up? Sure. Well, I'll give you some thoughts, and certainly the thing that drives a decision whether or not to go on hormone therapy is not blood levels, saliva levels, or laboratory testing. It is the objective and subjective symptoms in the absence of any other cause. Typically in men, there's a decrease in energy, a decrease in sex drive, there's a decrease in muscle mass, there can be a brain fog, a loss of energy, there can be difficulties with speed of thought, there can be problems with power. These are the symptoms that drive individuals to contemplate hormone therapy. The blood work is done to make sure that you're not extreme in your hormone levels. For instance, if you have those symptoms and your blood levels are above the halfway mark, you got to rethink it. Now, each clinician approaches it a bit differently. At Intellectual Medicine, we believe in testicular preservation. This is a critical difference. You go on testosterone therapy without testicular preservation, your testicles will shrink, and over time, they'll become like raisins, and you'll lose hormonal production. So we favor hormone replacement. I applaud whoever's prescribing for you, Mike, for being proactive, and you for taking the step. So I hope you're getting great benefit from it. Listen, we got to wrap up. Mike, thanks for the call, and thanks to all of our listeners for your support, listening to our show, and listening to the station, WPRO, the voice of Southern New England. You know, live and local means something. This is your station, and we keep you up to date. And up next, keeping people up to date, is Tony DeJesus from Big Blue Bug Solutions. He's going to tell you how to make your life healthier and safe from pestilence. Well, folks, we're wishing you pestilence. I like that word. 120 youthful and healthy years. I'm Dr. Petteruti with Shannon. See you next week.